Hey everyone! I hope everyone can hear me. Welcome to Next City's Solutions Fest. Woo! And our fourth webinar on how communities rebuild after climate disaster. Can anyone hear me? Awesome. Thank you so much. But yes, this is our fourth webinar in the Solutions Fest series this year, across 7 events from January 13th through the 19th, which is next Thursday. We're bringing together more than 30 city builders to share evidence-backed solutions on topics like affordable housing, tenant organizing, new grocery models, you're here, creative civic infrastructure, tangled titles, and scaling community power in economic development, all featured, by the way, in our Solutions of the Year print magazine. To rewatch any session and get a copy of Solutions of the Year magazine, you can visit links that Melissa, I believe, will be putting in the chat. And they're also pretty accessible through our website. Thank you to everyone attending today's webinar, to our bundle ticket purchasers and donors, and our sponsor, Results for America. I would also like to thank all of today's speakers, fellow moderators, and partners for making this series possible. And now I'm glad to turn it over to Madeline Weatherhead from Results for America.
Thank you so much, Annabelle. Can you hear me okay? Yes. All right. Hi, everyone. It's really wonderful to join you all here today. I'm really looking forward to the conversation. I'm Madeline Weatherhead. I'm the community manager for Results for America. And Results for America is so excited to sponsor Next City's Solutions Fest and get to be with you all to celebrate the year's most innovative solutions. Just a little bit about us. Results for America is a national nonprofit with a simple mission. We are devoted to helping communities invest in strategies that work. And we do this by helping governments and their partners harness the power of data and evidence to find, fund, and implement solutions that accelerate upward mobility and improve the lives of your residents. We have worked with hundreds of government agencies at the federal, state, and local level. And our work is here to try and improve government decision making and shift public dollars towards strategies that get results. I work with the Results Network at the organization, which is a fairly new free online platform that is designed to support local leaders from cities, counties, education and workforce boards to be able to connect to their peers in local government and find resources and strategies that can help support you in your goals or stay in the loop about different training opportunities that might be relevant to you. And at its core, the Results Network is about making it easier for local leaders to find what they need and learn from each other. And instead of starting from scratch, provide a space where members can ask and see what their peers are trying, what is showing promise, and how others are measuring success. So whether you're looking for practical tools and training, or if you are looking for examples from other local governments or a space just to connect with peers who are navigating similar challenges, the Results Network is designed to meet local leaders where you are and try and help turn your good ideas into results. So if you're a local government leader, we would love for you to join us and be part of the community. Everything we offer is completely free. And in the chat, I'm just going to drop a link to how you can join the Results Network and also my email address and our team's email address. Please reach out if you have any questions. And with that, I will turn it back over to you, Annabelle. Thank you so much. I really hope everyone enjoys today's event.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Madeline. Really appreciate you guys joining us for these webinars. So, a little bit of introduction. I know we have people from all over here. I'm seeing some Illinois, some Nevada, some Massachusetts, some Iowa, some Pennsylvania, anywhere and everywhere. A little introduction into Lexington, Kentucky. Lexington is the second largest city in Kentucky, with about 300,000 people in the city proper and a little bit over 500,000 in the total metro. So we're a smaller city as far as everything's concerned, but still the second biggest and still a bit of a hub. And we're known for being the horse capital of the world. We're known for bourbon, as is most of Kentucky. And we joke about having the tallest building in the world. It's not the tallest building in the world. Lexington is also, like I said, the only large city for a pretty big radius. There's Louisville an hour east and Cincinnati a bit over an hour north. But the people that come to Lexington for healthcare, work, and more shopping options can come from a pretty big array of places. That means that we have a really big diversity in experience, at least regionally. At the same time, we have a lot of food deserts in this city. And when I say food deserts, a lot of people might think of rural food deserts. I personally grew up in a pretty small town about an hour east of Lexington, and that was definitely a rural food desert. We picture no grocery stores for miles, no public transit to get there, people living on farms, yada yada, price gouging, all of those things. But those things actually aren't too different in the urban context. Lexington is home to tracts of inaccessible roads, boarded up corner stores, and low income neighborhoods that don't have enough transit connectivity to make things work. And according to the USDA's food access research, which I can drop in chat right after I'm done talking here, Lexington doesn't fare a whole lot better than many other areas of the state. For example, more than 6% of low-income households in Southwest Lexington lack both a personal vehicle and a supermarket within half a mile. That's a pretty perfect storm. Across all those issues, we have a lot of organizers pushing for increased food access in a lot of ways, a lot of which we'll talk about today. Things like free markets, mobile groceries, collaboration with farmers. What I've come to love about living in Lexington is the way that people here just spring forward and work towards actionable solutions. And you can say that for any place, but for reasons that we'll get into, we have a lot of brilliant minds here that are really making it happen. Today, I have with me two of those incredible leaders. Ashley C. Smith of Black Soil, which actually operates regionally, and we can talk a little bit about that too, and Kristen Hughes of Food Chain. They've built two extremely unique, innovative, and successful nonprofit food assistance models that build this ecosystem together to make Lexington a more equitable place to be able to afford and obtain food, and building community within all of that. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to our guest speakers. I believe Kristen is first in this regard. Kristen is the co-executive director of Food Chain, which offers food pickups. They have a really cool aquaponics facility that we'll get into, and so much more. So I'll let you take it away, Kristen.
Thank you. As Annabelle said, my name is Kristen Hughes. I am the co-executive director at Food Chain. And I have been there since 2019, but we were founded in 2011. So I'm going to share a short presentation so that everyone can learn a little bit more about us. So Food Chain, we're a Lexington based nonprofit. We're focused on food access, food education, and workforce development. We operate a working aquaponics farm, a commercial kitchen, and a range of community programs focused on food access and food literacy education. For us, access and education go hand in hand in order to make the changes that we want to see in the food system. We also have worked across emergency food access, youth workforce development, and nutrition education for the last 15 years. Through this, we've built deep partnerships with local farmers, schools, recovery programs, and families across North Lexington. And what we've learned is that access alone isn't enough. We also need strong community-centered food infrastructure. So this gives a timeline of Food Chain's founding to where we are today. So we were founded in 2011. The first fish went into our indoor aquaponics farm in 2013. We opened a teaching and processing kitchen in 2017. In 2019, we started as a sponsor for the summer food service program, and we also added a saltwater shrimp aquaponics setup to our farm. In 2020, with the shutdown of everything, we really transitioned to a lot of the emergency food access that we saw that was needed in our community and established the Nourish Lexington program. It is something that we run through today. In 2023, we began our BUFF program, which is paid internships for middle and high school students to learn more about urban agriculture. In 2024, We were part of the LFPA nonprofits that were providing fresh food to the community. And this year, in just over a month, we are looking to open the food chain neighborhood green grocery, which has been in our plans since our founding. So just a little bit, I know people like to see photos of what we do. So we run an indoor aquaponics farm, which is what you can see on the left. But in addition to that, we're also partnering with Kentucky State University to do more research into soilless agriculture, which will give us a lot more information about the differences between hydroponics and aquaponics and focusing on nutrient uptake across these growing systems. And the pictures on the right show some of our middle school interns this past summer. They had the opportunity to learn about outdoor farming, indoor farming, harvest fish, build some aquaponics growing systems that we then installed in several community centers and schools across Lexington in order to make this access to food and this access to education more equitable for everyone in our community. We as I mentioned, we do some food literacy education. So we have community cooking classes once a month in our facility. So this is just some of the numbers from last year, the impact, and then Nourish Lexington. This is our distribution of free meals to the community, which also includes a home delivery program. And so these are some of the numbers from that. We really love partnering with Kentucky farmers. That is the whole idea of opening our teaching and processing kitchen, was to really make a market for seconds and surplus from Kentucky farmers. And so we make it a point to really focus a lot of our energy on purchasing seconds from farmers, paying them for that, creating a market for this, and then either processing, using it in the meals that we distribute to our community, or sending it out as part of our meal boxes that go directly to families. And then on the kitchen side of things, so we are cooking pretty much every single day in the kitchen, putting meals out into the community. So we have this established base, we have this established need for the meals, but also people know what to expect coming from food chain. And so we're looking at, when we open our neighborhood green grocery, being able to transition a lot of the recipes we've created into meals for purchase and frozen meals that folks can purchase and heat at home. So here are some photos of our neighborhood green grocery from our latest open house that we held in December as a holiday party. But we are really excited to be able to focus the majority on access to fresh food, creating community space for those that live in our neighborhood to come together and share a meal and talk and just get to know us and get to know everyone else that lives there. So what does it look like when you walk through the doors of our grocery? You'll find produce sourced directly from Kentucky farmers. We are really focusing on being able to purchase in bulk so that we can have bulk bins of affordable seconds produce. We want to have a coffee and drink counter with kid-friendly smoothies, ices made with local syrups, samples of popcorn. We do have a lot of kids in the neighborhood that like to come to Food Chain and help out with volunteering. And so we want to make sure that our grocery is also that welcoming space for them. There will be seating where people can enjoy prepared foods, meet friends, take a break while shopping. And then, as I mentioned, we'll have frozen, lightly processed fruits and vegetables, preserved at peak season, frozen heat and eat meals made with local produce, including heart healthy and diabetes friendly, medically tailored meals. And at its core, the neighborhood green grocery is really about turning food access into long-term food security. It is a grocery store that is designed around the people, where local food, education, and the community can come together. And so this has been something that's been a long time coming. We are located in what was an old bread factory. And so the infrastructure, as far as the space, was always there. It was just, we like to grow at the speed of trust in our community. And so building up that trust, really listening to our community members about, is this grocery store still something that was wanted? We've had a sign over the space since We built our kitchen in 2017 that says Food Chains Future Grocery, and it finally became time to make this a reality. And so we are really, really excited, and I'm happy to be here today to share a little bit more about our journey. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kristen. And now I'll turn it over to Ashley C. Smith, who is the co-founder and executive director of Black Soil.
Thank you so much. I'm not able to share my video at this time, but I can share my screen. Here we go. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I am Ashley C. Smith, based here in Lexington, Kentucky. I am a native and lifelong resident, and today I'm here to talk about the neighborhood pharmacy markets where food is medicine. We are a 501(c)(3 based here in Lexington, but we serve the entire state of Kentucky as well as the entire region. We go as far west as California and working with partnerships. So feel free to reach out to me. My email is ashley@blacksoilky.com, and stay connected with us through our website as well as our Facebook and Instagram handle is also blacksoilky. Our mission, just to really distill it down, as a sociologist, I saw in 2017 a real need to create market share for the oftentimes hidden, tucked away Black rural farmers who were oftentimes ostracized, overlooked, not given the opportunity. At that time in 2017, they represented 1.4%. Now, according to the USDA Census of Agriculture in 2022, they represented 0.4%. But across that 5-year period, Black soil was responsible in driving a fivefold growth of economic development and market share that cannot be credited to the USDA, the Kentucky Department of Agriculture, or any other entity. So plainly, our mission is to reconnect Black Kentuckians to their heritage and legacy in agriculture. And by bringing together urban and rural-based farmers with urban and rural-based Kentucky hardworking families, public organizations, we're looking to really bring up the self-sufficiency, promote healthy living, and activate cooperative economics. Our vision, which we've been living out for the past 8 years, now 9 years coming up this August, is to really foster a greater market share. As I shared, that fivefold growth really looked for us to create our own markets rather than continue to rely upon the systems that can hurt us for generations. Our signature program really started off with taking folks from Louisville and Lexington and bringing them into the rural communities, oftentimes met with fear and apprehension. But once they got there, they fell in love with the farm stories and the unique operations. We also feature farm to table dinners to continue increasing the access and affordability of local food, which is oftentimes decentered from the traditional African American foodways. We work with culinary artists that represent 0.5% here locally and providing them with catering opportunities. We create specialty events, workshops, trainings, education, and outreach, and even more for these Kentucky Black farmers, growers, and makers. So here at our neighborhood, oh, hold on one second. I'm sorry. What happened to my screen? There we go. So the Eat Local Year Round Challenge has been something that's been around for quite some time. And plainly, Black soil is an agribusiness. So this challenge has a twofold approach. We really work to bring farmers together with these families and households. First, our recipe side equips our farmers. At our core, we're a marketing and branding organization. We also specialize in aggregation and distribution. I'm sitting here at one of our two locations. We have a fulfillment center where weekly we are receiving deliveries from Kentucky farmers, chefs, and makers. We really look at this as a farm to community benefit program. We focus on a closed currency system that we've created our own self-sufficiency, where we've weaned ourselves of working on federal programs and the reliance on federal programs. The neighborhood pharmacy markets are also home to the Grow It Forward program. You've probably heard of Pay It Forward. Well, obviously, we want to grow it forward. This allows individuals, businesses, nonprofits, philanthropic donors to donate to Black Soil KY. And then we transform those donations into Grow It Forward certificates, like this one right here. Okay. They range in amounts from 10, 15, and $20. And folks are able to come in and shop with dignity and make those selections. So you see some pictures here of our weekly circular, our Grow It Forward program, thanks. Our vendors range from East Central and West Kentucky, some who have worked with us since 2017, and we're constantly opening the door and welcoming all types of vendors. Our specialty is working in building up the market share for Black farmers, chefs, and makers, but we're not limited there. We work oftentimes in rural Kentucky. We work with diverse religious, socioeconomic backgrounds as well within our vendor lineup. So we're really excited to feature seasonal produce, local meats, cold pressed juices using our produce, as well as staple goods such as coffee, honey, farm to table jams, frozen and ready to eat meals. And we do this all around the opportunity to eat local year round. So, as again, a marketing and branding organization with two retail locations, one here in the Garden Springs Shopping Center, where we see a mix of socioeconomic status, race and ethnicity, nationality, language. And then our other location is located right inside of a historic Black neighborhood on a residential street. I see we have a lot of folks from our planning offices from across the country joining in on this conversation today. One thing to note about our 760 Florence Avenue location is for 40 years that served as a convenience store, but it was improperly zoned. It then lapsed in operation for about 2 and 3 years. When we went to then go take on ownership of the property, we then had to go through a zone change. The neighborhood association, the Georgetown Street Area Neighborhood Association, was key in driving that advocacy at City Hall, and we really walked in alignment with them. So we wrote a grant to Feeding America, and that allowed us to really boost up our operations. So here on the left, you see what's available this week. Our director of marketing does a fantastic job of really bringing to life what folks are able to enjoy. And then we really pride ourselves on having a robust, rounded inventory lineup with our value added goods from dairy, ready to eat meals, frozen meals, as I've shared previously. So our 2025 market impact, we opened 2 stores in 2025, in addition to having our Sprout Mobile Pharmacy Market, which is our farmers market on wheels. This was our first year, solo dolo, no USDA, no federal programs. We really worked hard the previous 3 years to raise funds that would replace those dollars. As we've seen time and time again in 2025, the ups and downs and the uncertainties that reflected in federal programs really allowed us to step away and say, we are going to live out what our mission statement says and focus on self-sufficiency, not just for our end users and farmers, but for ourselves as an organization, which led us to investing over $200,000, working with over 30 farmers, chefs, and makers. Within our first 6 months, we saw over 5,000 folks come through both of our locations. We work with managed care organizations such as Aetna Better Health of Kentucky, which helped us serve 12 counties and 400 families in that critical Q4 when a lot of farmers are ready to end out their year. And we wanted them to end that year strong. 90% of Americans recently surveyed in a poll say they have a real hard time with the affordability of groceries. Folks are able to come here and spend less than $40 for the majority of their staple goods. And through free food distributions in partnership with organizations like Farm Credit Mid-America, we were able to serve 6,000 families. I'll briefly touch on our amazing Sprout Mobile Pharmacy Market. And this allows us to have our rolling food oasis serve food and transportation insecure communities. We saw what we call missions, over 50 missions, nearly 60, and around 1,200 transactions to date. When I spoke of the closed currency program and the way that we're able to be self-sufficient outside of those uncertain funding mechanisms, our $5 vouchers allows us to, in 2025, serve nearly 900 families. We were able to touch over 1,000 community members through free food distributions, and we set up at 7 community partner sites, mainly within our public school systems and our faith communities. And in 2026, we've increased those community partners to include our medically vulnerable, our private corporations, as well as our housing authority properties, in addition to returning to our faith communities and our public school district. How does it work? We have a 3-tiered system where folks can bundle produce $5, $10, $20. And it also allows us to be welcoming of all types of tenders, from cash to our Black Soul KY gift cards to Venmo and Cash App. Here on the right, you see an example of our $5 vouchers. Folks come up and it gives them the chance to either have one, or I've seen folks with the partners that we've worked with, they've passed out $20 worth of vouchers, and it just keeps adding that value in a way that's disarming and very welcoming and inclusive around you matter, you belong, and you are worthy of local good food. And so we are the state's only mobile market that is in the state of Kentucky that is 100% curated by Kentucky local farmers. And we were thankful to spend a bulk of these funds through the Sprout Mobile Pharmacy Market. Here's a picture of some of our bundles that folks can mix and match. We again have seasonal produce. This is a rotation. We took these pictures late, I'd say September, October. Okay. And I really appreciate Next City's opportunity today to be a featured guest on the panel. And I look forward to staying in touch with everybody. Thank you again.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ashley. And I'll go ahead and jump into our moderated Q&A session. We will also have some time, I believe Melissa also put in chat, we will also have some time near the end for some more broad Q&A from the audience. One question that I have is, we already touched a little bit on the making of all of these different facets of your organizations and how they provide these really unique services. Specifically for our community builders or change makers in chat, those that want to do something similar. When making those unique services, like with Food Chain with their aquaponics, like with Black Soil with their pharmacy market and farmers market shares, just to name a couple. How did these come to be from inception to present? What were some of those challenges and lessons that you learned? And I suppose Ashley can go first.
Awesome question. Our biggest issue and hurdle is one, just folks believing that we knew what we were doing. In many ways, I am self-taught, don't have an ag background. As I shared, I'm a sociologist. So I've really, really studied the landscape, what's not working, who's not at the table. You can have all kinds of alleged representation. You can use the word equity, but at the end of the day, to the people who absolutely who are in deep, deep need and the most vulnerable, do they feel like they have access to your programs and opportunities? So one, a lot of folks might have the affluence, but they don't have the anointing. So we know how to work with very little amount of funds, stretch them, expand them, multiply them. We've dealt with a lot of closed doors, rejection. And in the end, that's always just continue to build our grit It's continued to build our resilience. It's allowed us to step back and be patient. It's allowed us to really stay close to what we're doing and be very private about that. I think like folks feel entitled to your plans, what you're doing, just to come and sabotage, or because they might have more money, they can jump 6 light years ahead of you and move a lot faster. But at the end of the day, who's really gaining from that? So the biggest obstacles were breaking into institutional procurement, overcoming the bias of many of the decision makers, and not working to convince them. We let the soil do the talking at Black Soil KY, and so it's just so imperative that our work speaks for itself. We're result and solution driven, and our data can back that up as well. And there was a question about what determines eligibility for the free food distribution. So with Black Soil KY, we don't require any ID or any sort of income documentation. Based on our experience in working with aggregation and distribution during 2020 and the COVID-19 pandemic, we saw folks with suicide door Teslas pulling up, right? Everybody was suffering and hurting in those moments. And we just continue to really focus on folks self-identifying their need and having the integrity and ethics to, much like what we saw during the federal government shutdown, we served many TSA employees and workers, and they've come back into the store when their financial ability returns. And they're paying it forward, growing it forward, coming in and self-paying, but there is no obligation to do that. So thank you, Mr. Webster, for your question.
Yes, that is a really great question. And that is something that I've seen in a lot of our food models. When I first started exploring these back in the summer and fall, a lot of people are saying not require that the barrier of proof is just another barrier to entry for these services. Kristen, what about you?
Yeah, so food chain was really founded because there was a gap in our neighborhood at the time between like understanding where your food comes from. As Lexington is an urban setting, there's not a lot of education around agriculture and teaching people where their food comes from. And I have found this, I was a teacher before I started at Food Chain. I found this even working in private schools, that kids just think that, like food comes from the grocery store, and weren't given that opportunity to really see it and grow it. And so our founder, Becca Self, when she heard about aquaponics, and this really great idea of, hey, you can grow without soil if you don't have that access to it, within a city, especially. And we were going into an abandoned bread factory that had sat vacant for over 20 years. It was really looking at how can we turn this into an opportunity to bring this access to fresh food into this hyper localized model. So we opened the aquaponics farm in conjunction with a restaurant, a seafood restaurant that utilizes all of the lettuce and microgreens that they use in what they are serving comes from our farm, which is like 5 feet away from it. So really showcasing how we can do this, but then bringing in folks from the neighborhood and showing them this is how, plants grow. It goes from a seed to a seedling, and then we can transplant it into our system. And you can see this process take place and take part of it. One of the really unique things about our farm is it is an educational farm. While it's a working farm, it's also educational because we are inviting these interns in to have this opportunity. And so when we opened the aquaponics farm, it was the first indoor aquaponics farm in Kentucky. So we were in this really unique position, but we were still learning. We're still learning today. Nothing is perfect. As Ashley said, like we weren't experts in aquaponics when we started this. You have to kind of teach yourself and learn as you go. But then like just building up community. Community to us is so important every step of the way. And I think Ashley touched on this as well, is you've got to be in step with everyone in the community and making sure that you're earning their trust as you're building. And so we, would invite folks in for monthly potlucks to really learn what we needed to do as a nonprofit to grow and be able to provide better for the folks that we're living with and around us.
Awesome. Thank you. And just a reminder for everyone watching, we will have near the end of the hour, we'll have a few minutes for audience Q&A as well. And we've talked a little bit about Lexington as this urban environment surrounded by a lot of rural communities. Just in general, what unique challenges does Lexington and Kentucky present to your work in food access and equity? Especially we saw in November with a lot of the SNAP pauses. We saw a lot of difficulty and turmoil for a lot of folks here. I'll go ahead and let Kristen lead with this question.
Yeah, so especially thinking, like my mind goes to thinking about the last 6 years. In March of 2020, we immediately pivoted what we were doing and what our plans were. We had already been working with a lot of Kentucky farmers through the purchasing of seconds and surplus. We had a workforce development program. So we had relationships with restaurants as well, where we were placing folks in externships. And what this allowed us to do was to immediately start taking in donations, but then also raising funds and purchasing directly from farmers who had their contracts canceled. Um, and it's something that I think a lot of people in the urban setting didn't necessarily think about. They didn't think about what would happen when a university shuts down and how that affects a farmer that is, in a rural county. But part of what we also saw is as we saw this increase in kind of natural disasters across Kentucky, the last 5 years in Kentucky have been pretty awful for a lot of natural disasters that are hitting a lot of our rural communities. And a lot of those folks are then being placed into the urban setting in Lexington specifically, but being placed there without this access that they had maybe once in their rural community to food, to resources, to keeping their needs met. And so we have, through our work, really met a lot of folks who have been relocated to Lexington, who come from Eastern Kentucky and other parts, other rural parts of the state. And they're just, being placed here without a lot of knowledge of where to get things. And so it's been really great because I think all of the organizations that are working in Lexington in this urban setting that are doing this food access work have really come together to be able to provide these extra opportunities and information and these access points to so many people. This is something that I especially love about our state, about the people in our state, is that when it is a time of crisis, we come together and we make sure that nobody is falling through the cracks. And it just strengthens the work that all of us are doing. And so, beyond the displacement of a lot of people into Lexington, we also have this education factor in the schools. A lot of the schools that are in rural counties receive this ag education. And in Lexington, because we're an urban center, only specific schools have this ag education. But I know that Black Soil has been doing a lot. We have been doing a lot to work with the schools to be able to provide this education so that students especially are better understanding where their food comes from, where they can go to access it, how they can know if something is local versus not local, and really instilling kind of those beliefs and those morals at a very young age so that as they grow, as they go back to their family, they are encouraging and inspiring them to also purchase locally, purchase from the farmers just to make everybody stronger.
Awesome. Thank you for the answer, Kristen. And Ashley.
Great. So for Black Soul KY, Kentucky is such a unique position in the nation. It's such a flyover state. It's not a place where someone's automatically going to prioritize, like, yeah, let me jump over there and see what they're talking about. So one of the biggest hurdles that we've been able to overcome is really attracting national attention to the Black lived experience here in Kentucky, which really toes that fine rural urban exchange. We don't call it a divide, we call it a bridge, because you saw during the Great Migration so many folks uproot their rural livelihoods and move to urban metropolitan cores. So for here in Kentucky, that was, leaving a small rural county and moving to Lexington or Louisville and finding more upward mobility and opportunity. And so we still keep that migration mindset when we think about our durable supply chain that we've had now for the past going on 9 years. When I think about Lexington through the market share development, the majority of our farmers are based in rural communities. Our mission is to, again, reconnect Black Kentuckians to their heritage and legacy in agriculture. So hemp, tobacco, equine, and distilling all came through the ingenuity and innovations of the enslaved Black women and children here in Kentucky. So we must not ever overlook that. We do a labor acknowledgement in addition to a land acknowledgement. Amen. And so what it allows us to do also is be a light and a beacon for these rural-based farmers who look at Lexington as a place to penetrate in the market, but oftentimes it's just so difficult. They don't feel like they can measure up. And we, again, as a sociologist, let's change the groupthink. Let's change the looking glass self. Let's then translate that self-actualization into real results where you're performing 10 times better on your rich Kentucky soil. And so we've taken our mission across the United States. We work with the largest Black-owned farm in Los Angeles County, Bloom Ranch. They came to Kentucky to our conference and said, we want you to do what you've done here on our farm. And we hosted their first public event in June of 2024, and they haven't looked back since. So look up Bloom Ranch of Acton. We go down to Florida here in the next few weeks to uplift these folks. You would think little Kentucky, what the South has something to say, but oftentimes we're in this weird identity crisis. And so what I would encourage our national listeners and audience members to take into consideration is don't overlook us. We are doing so much with so little resources that it's astounding. To speak about the natural disasters, we've been right there on the front lines as well in a very different way. We've encouraged folks to not pit Eastern Kentucky against Black Kentucky. When I hold my breath, it doesn't make your lungs expand to the ability to inhale or exhale any differently. Okay. So we can speak about all of these groups. It's called intersectionality. And so that's what I want Black soil to always be representative of the groundwork, the foundation of Kentucky agriculture. You can't separate it from the Black lived experience here in Kentucky. Thank
I definitely agree, Ashley. When we talk about foodways or the ways in which we're making and getting our food, intersection of identity and lived experience is so important when talking about that. And the last question I have is pretty much about that, to keep it brief, because I want to leave some time for the audience questions. Do you all have any other thoughts on your experiences and roadblocks you've encountered, specifically as women frontrunners and in the sphere of racial equity when it comes to this food access work? I'll let Ashley go first on this one.
you. Okay. Well, obviously, I've shared previously in the conversation how overcoming institutional procurement barriers. Folks are really friendly now and they embrace Black farmers, but that is not the case. They can act like it was, but it just simply wasn't. And that was also reflective of if you weren't a big dog white farmer with a brand name household recognition, you weren't getting an opportunity either. So we took the winds, as they say, you know, the rising tide rise makes all the boats rise to that degree, to paraphrase in my Kentucky way. And I really want folks to stop reinventing and having revisionist history around their support of Black farmers without first and foremost acknowledging that we had to pester them to the nth degree to even give them those opportunities. Okay. We have State of the Soil, which is our national convening. We've had it the last 2 years. And when I think about the growth that we've seen and the ability to attract 25 states, international communities, so on and so forth, it's reflective of this is a universal conversation. This is a universal model. Everyone knows the humanistic experience of being left out, being on the outside looking in. And we don't ever want anyone to feel the way we've been made to feel. Okay. It's downright disgusting because I have receipts on every single one of these industry professionals here in Kentucky. And I'm fine to stand on my own and not be liked because this is not a business about being liked or clicking up. Are we serving the people and keeping the main thing the main thing? So when I talk about and I look back on the last 9 years going on, and the opportunities now that Black farmers are getting, I'm so thankful, but it also deeply saddens me because I know the backroom conversations, the doubt, the malignment, the misrepresentation, the minimization that occurred, that folks thought they would never ever get out. And a lot of our folks don't ever want to rock the boat. You know what I'm saying? So I'm the one rocking the boat on their behalf. I don't have land to lose. They do. So I say use me as the shield and the opportunity to push through. I can think about institutions now that have curtailed and capitulated with Department of Education civil rights reports and state legislation on anti-DEI bills that could not wait to drop us. And we're thankful that they did because we didn't need them in the first place. So now everyone's afraid of their commitments that they made in 2020, 6 years ago. But we've been unwavering. So we won't take Black out of our name, our mission. We've seen a lot of our counterparts do that because they're afraid of losing funding, but they aren't afraid of losing their integrity. So I thank you for the question.
Of course. And Kristen, if you have anything that you'd want to add.
Yeah, one of the things that we're really excited to do with our neighborhood green grocery is really focus on our urban farmers and our backyard farmers, and really give them a a market. Um, and so, the idea of our grocery is like we're acting as a food hub so that we can connect with all of these underrepresented farmers, farmers who, yeah, haven't been able to participate in the past, but really also looking at beginner farmers, veteran farmers, and creating this market for them. I think Ashley put it really, really great. We have been very pleased to be able to work with Ashley over the years on this work and to connect with her farmers and just continue to uplift. And one of the things that, I will point out is in 2020, Ashley kind of was alluding to this with the USDA. Like they were doing a food box program that was supposed to be, like fresh ingredients. And when we think of fresh, we think of it comes from our state, it comes from our farmers, we can trace it. But the food boxes that were being sent to Kentucky were from a farm in Florida, which really just seemed counterintuitive to us. And it didn't seem like this was like the correct way to do things. And I think, our focus has always been on like how can we keep it local because there are enough farmers and there's enough food being grown in every state to really support your population without having to go so far out of bounds. It's a lot of kind of reteaching what to eat, when to eat. You can't have everything year round just because it's at the grocery store. And so, a lot of this is connecting with the farmers. I think we all want farmers to be household names. They're the ones that grow the food. When I ask questions in class with students, I ask two questions. Where do you get your food? And they name like 20 grocery stores right off the bat and then name a Kentucky farmer and they sit there and they struggle. And that is what we're both trying to change is make sure that the farmers' names are being uplifted and that they're the ones getting the credit and that we are acknowledging them for the time, the effort, the food that is being grown.
Definitely. Thank you. And I will go ahead and read off some of the audience questions that we have. Remember, if you have any audience questions, you can drop them in the Q&A. Our first one was from Eric Webster, who also asked a little bit earlier about the eligibility for food distribution. So for each of you, what's the ratio of staff to volunteer support utilized in your programs? About how many staff do you have to how many volunteers?
20 full and part-time staff. It's across our aquaponics farm, our kitchen, our education department, and all of our admin. But we love to bring in volunteers. Volunteers help us with our meal distribution. They help us with packing up our Nourish boxes that go out to families. Last year, we had about 7,000 hours of volunteer help, and that was between 2 to 3,000 separate volunteers that came in to help. So we don't always have like a consistent, you we have 20 people that come every week. It's a lot of changes, but there's a lot going on and a lot of opportunity for people to get involved.
Awesome.
We have five staff at Black Soil. We do not utilize volunteers. That's not the way that our model works.
Understood. Thank you, guys. Our next one was from Courtney Ball. Do you have any advice for balancing health of different locations, performing different services, making sure that your different locations are in a supportive relationship with each other, as opposed to simply dividing your attentions? I can go ahead and let Ashley lead with that one.
Can you say that, restate the question? I'm so
Yes.
sorry.
No,
I
you're
caught
fine.
it, but I didn't.
No problem. Courtney Ball asks, do you have any advice for balancing the health of these different locations that you have performing different services, making sure that these locations are in a supportive relationship with each other as opposed to simply dividing your attention? So I think, for instance, say the pharmacy markets, how we have two locations of those.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. Well, they both have their own flavor, right? Like it's similar to the Walmart or Alderson's or Kroger in your community, like the one on Kroger on the University of Kentucky's campus. We call that Disco Kroger. You're going to see all the students there. You're going to see some late night shenanigans. So similarly, at Black Soul KY, our neighborhood pharmacy markets, whether it be the two brick and mortars or Sprout, are all going to give you a different type of customer and what they're looking for. On the Sprout Mobile Pharmacy Market, someone's looking for a quick boom, boom transaction shopping experience. They come to the truck, they already know what they want. The Florence Avenue location of our retail space is going to be really community focused. We house our Shop and Learn community series. So we really focus on harm reduction. The neighborhood we're located in severely suffered from the war on drugs, gentrification, redlining. So we do all these efforts around building up the holistic community health, social cohesion, uplifting the quality of life. Where we have a 3-in-1 function for our Lane Allen location, that's more focused on administration, aggregation, and distribution. But that retail front, that storefront, we're right next door to a 165 unit senior living complex. So you've got the flavor of intergenerational foodways, people coming in as a social outing, right? You've got families coming in after school. You've got walkability at both locations. So what I love is 3 campuses, 1 mission. As long as we're under the umbrella of our mission and our vision, the DNA and how it comes out in each location is imperative to the overall cohesiveness of Black Soil being able to be sustainable, right? We're meeting the community and they're making it their own rather than us forcing ourselves upon them.
Awesome. Thank you, Ashley. And if Kristen has anything to add, definitely go ahead. Otherwise, we can move on to the next question. I know we're running a little bit short on time.
Yeah, I'll just add really quickly, like our location is really unique because everything is under the same roof. So our aquaponics farm, our kitchen, and our future grocery are all in a kind of maze connected space. But this is also what led us to a co-executive directorship so that we could kind of divide and conquer and have more oversight into everything that was going on along. But really just making sure that, yeah, everything is mission aligned is the way to do it.
Awesome. And a pretty quick one from Kara J. Jennings for Ashley. Best practice for very small nonprofits who want to do something similar.
Oh, I love this question. Well, one, you do not need a humongous facility to make a difference. One, when I think of making our next steps in growing our footprint in our retail division, we're looking for really small, compact spaces. I immediately think of overhead and all of the utilities and other costs that eat into your impact. Um, you have the solution. What you do is so uniquely tailored to the community that you're in. I would just really, really focus on keeping your eyes on your own paper and not being deterred by others' perceived success highlight reels, because you don't know what's happening internally. You don't know what they're having to overcome. So I would always encourage small nonprofits to know that even a small drop in the river makes a ripple effect. It makes an impact. And if you just keep on your path and stay in your strategic alignment, you will be successful. I would definitely consider um, having a very strong supply chain in your vendors. So if you're more of a public facing, continuing to uh, build the morale of your staff. Times are really, really hard. The job market is really, really hard. So making it where people want to come into the facility, your office, they want to lift up the mission and the vision. I would just continue to encourage you to work.
Awesome. And I think that's all the time that we have for questions. So I'll go ahead and unfortunately, I'm really sorry to anyone who might not have gotten their question answered, but I know these guys are so knowledgeable on everything that they do, and there's a lot of information on their websites too. So thank you guys so much for attending today's webinar, and thank you so much to our speakers, Ashley C. Smith and Kristen Hughes. And thank you so much to all of you guys who contributed to our Pay What You Wish model of fundraising. If you did not make a contribution, please consider doing so for our campaign, our end of year campaign, or just in general. And thank you so much to Results for America for sponsoring this event series. To rewatch the webinar, you can go to our webinar archive available online. Melissa may also put that link in chat, but it's nextcity.org/webinars. And also, to get the Solutions of the Year magazine, you can go to nextcity.org/25solutions. I think that's all we've got. Thank you so much to everybody for tuning in, and I hope you can check out some more of the amazing events that we have going on for Solutions Fest this year. Thank you so much.